What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. And in today's video, we're going to be building a simple landing page with React.js and Tailwind CSS. And this is the page we have here. As you can see, we have a navigation bar with three tabs. We have the home and then the about us and contact us page. We have this text here and a button here, and we have this image here as well. And we have this card here too, which when you hover on it, you see the image scale out a bit. We have that too here as well. And this page is it is mobile responsive. It is completely mobile responsive, and we can check that here. We can confirm its responsiveness here, and as you can see, yes, it is mobile responsive as well. You can change the devices to see its responsiveness as well. It is completely mobile responsive on across multiple devices. Yes, so this is what we'll be building today. We'll be building this landing page in today's video. So if it sounds interesting and you're excited about this project, do want to hit the like button and hit the subscribe button as well if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet. And you can also share your thoughts in the comment section as well. Okay, so let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do now is to start a React app. So I'm going to create a new folder in my directories. So you can create a new folder anywhere you want to. I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to call it landing page YT, like so. And I'm going to open it in my terminal. Okay, let me close this one. So now that I've created a folder and I'm within that folder in the terminal, I can now start a React app. So to create a React app, you can just use this command, npx create React app, and then the name of the application. But I'm going to use dot because I want it to download the files within the same folder I've created, which is the landing page YT. But then you can still give it a name, a new name, and it's going to create a folder with that name. But I want it to be within the same folder, so I'm just going to use dot. So this is going to go ahead and install all the necessary dependencies for us to start building this landing page with React. It's going to take some few seconds to complete. Okay, so we are done bootstrapping our app with create React app, and it has installed and downloaded all the necessary modules we need for us to start building with React. So what we're going to do now is say code dot to open this directory in VS Code for us, because that's the ID we'll be using. Now you can use any text editor, but I prefer VS Code. So this is what we have here. We have this fresh template with create React app. So let's quickly start the app. I'm going to say npm start to start the app for us with React. It's going to open in a new browser tab. Okay, so if you start the app and see this spinning React logo, then it means you've successfully installed React and everything is working fine. Okay, back to the code. Now the next thing we want to do now is to install Tailwind CSS. So let's head over to the documentation of Tailwind CSS and see how it's done. So Tailwind CSS, and then we click the first link and then we hit get started. Now when we get to the documentation, we move to framework guides to choose the framework we are going to use. So you can see here that we have different kinds of frameworks. We have Next.js, Laravel, Vite, etc. But we are using Create React App, so we are going to watch the documentation for Create React App. Now the first thing we are going to do is npx create React. We've already done this, we've done that. So we are going to copy this npm install -d tailwind css, and we're going to run it in our terminal. So let me split the terminal and then paste the command in here. And now let me copy this one as well, npx tailwind css in it, to create a tailwind config file for us. Let me paste it in here, and it's going to create the tailwind config JS file for us, as you can see. Now the next thing we want to do is within the tailwind config.js file that was just created, we are going to add some content within it. So let me copy this content and then paste it back inside the content array, like so. Now this tells Tailwind CSS that it should be present in all the files within the src folder with the extensions of JS, JSX, TS, and TSX. So any file at all within the src folder that has these extensions .js, .jsx, the Tailwind CSS should work within it. Okay, so now the next thing is to copy this also in the index.css file. So within the index.css file, I'm going to clear everything we have in here and then paste this. So that's it. We've successfully installed Tailwind CSS. But let's see if it's actually working. So let's open the app.js. And then this is the default template we have from React, as we did the create React app. So I'm going to clear everything here. And there is this suggestion from the documentation. Let me just copy the same thing in here and then paste it. Let me move this up here. Okay, so if this is working out, we don't need this one as well. So let me clear it. So now let's see what we have on the browser. Okay, so if you've seen this, okay, so I think something is not working well here. So it's supposed to be a text of 3XL with a bold font, and it should be underlined, but it seems it hasn't been underlined, which means our Tailwind CSS hasn't been installed well. So let's see what's wrong. Okay, let's restart the server and see if it fixes it. Let's see npm start. Let's see if this fixes the issue. Probably since we installed it afresh. Okay, let's see. Let me clear this. Okay, so text 3XL font bold and then underline. We should say that here. Okay, great. So it means our Tailwind CSS is now working and we can start building our app with React and then Tailwind CSS. So it wasn't working at first because we installed it, and since we installed it, we now have to restart the server and then let it start afresh. So sometimes you need to restart the server to fix some of these errors. Okay, let me close this terminal as well. Okay, now the first thing we are going to do now is to build our header. But before that, let's add this background image, because this background here, this space looking background, is actually an image. So we are going to add it, and that's the first thing we are going to do. So, but before then, let's add this images folder, because that's where we have all the images we'll be needing for this particular landing page. So I've just placed this images folder within the src folder, and we have all the images we will be needing. Great. So what we are going to do now is, first of all, we are going to import the background image we are going to be using. So I'm going to say import bg from, then we define the destination or where we are getting the image from. So I'm going to say images within that same folder, images, and then we are going to say landing.png, because that's the name of the image we are going to be using, this image. Okay, so now that is done, we are also going to do this. We're going to say const star. We're going to do this for just the background image. After that, any other style we will use, we're going to be using the Tailwind CSS. So for the background image, we're going to be using this method. So we say background image, and then we use the URL with reference to what we just imported. And then the background size should be cover, and then the position should also be center. And then the repeat, it shouldn't repeat. So this is what we'll be doing. And then let's change this from div to main, because that's our main component. Let's say main, and let's clear this because we don't really need that. Okay, so within the main, we're going to say style. So style should be the styles we've just declared. So now when we go back, but first of all, let's change the height and width of the main one. So we're going to say height equals screen. Now height equals screen simply means the height should be 100 view width. It should take the full height of the screen. So if you hover on it, you can see the corresponding CSS style. So it is what height is 100 VH, which is 100 view height. Yes, and then the width should also be screen, which means width is 100 view width as well. So now if we go back to the browser, we should see the changes being reflected. Good. So now as you can see, we have this background image on the browser, but you notice that when I scroll, you can see this white background at the back. We don't want that. We want it to be sort of like what we have on the background. So we're going to change that color. We're going to change that color, and to do that, we need to target the whole body of the page. Okay, so to do that, let's open the index.css file. Open the index.css file, and we are going to target the body with the base. Right, so we are going to say layer, which allows us to target the base of our, so say body, and then we are going to apply some styling to it. So say apply some Tailwind CSS styling. So the background that we're going to be using is this hex code #21015 and then 5. So this is the hex code we'll be using. Now let's see what that looks like. So let's open the browser, and seems it hasn't. Let's refresh the page to see if seems it hasn't taken effect. Let's see what we have here. Okay, so I think it should be 210535, not what we have here. Okay, so now the color has come. As you can see here, this is the color we need. And when we go back, let's now scroll. As you can see, the white is gone, and we've got this purple looking color there, which is what we want basically. So we're going to keep it that way. Now the next thing we want to do is to create the header. Let's bring this down a little bit so that we see what's happening. So we want to now create the header. Okay, so now let's create a folder within the SRC folder. I'm going to create a new folder called components, which is going to contain all the components we'll be using. So components, and within components, we're going to create a new file and call it header.js. And then let me do this shortcut RAFC, which gives me the snippet that I need. Now if you need it, it's an extension I installed from VS Code, which is ES6 snippets. Yeah, you get that, then install it. Okay, so now let's import this header. Let's import this header in the app.js. So I'm going to import header here. Let's say header, and then let's import it from the component. So we just imported the header. All right, great. Now let's start building the header. So for the header, the first thing we want to do for the header is to start styling the div. Okay, so we're going to say, let's see, class name. So as you can see here, first let me explain something. So the header has this dark background, and this section is sort of like, it's a free section, so it's always going to be within the center. So let me explain this by opening the developer console, and then let's use the responsive section. So no matter the width of your screen, it's always going to remain within this portion. So that's our goal, right? We want it to remain within this portion. The content should remain within this portion, the center, and then maintain the space besides it. So that's what we are going to be doing. That's our goal here. Okay, so what we are going to now do is, now note that Tailwind CSS is a mobile first view, which means we design for mobile first before we design for desktop. So whatever style you write first, you design for mobile, and then you define your breakpoints where you want the styles to change. So I'm going to paste in some styling here, and then I'm going to explain it after I paste it. So I'm going to paste it here now. Okay, so we have this here, which is just the height, defining the height of the navbar, which is just 4 rems. And then we are saying the background should be black, and then the width should be screen, meaning the width should take all the available space on the screen. and the text should be white. It should be in the display flex, and then the items should be in the center. So that's what we have here. Now let's bring another div here, which is going to contain an unordered list. And then we are going to now define the max width and etc. That will help us achieve our goal. So I'm going to say class name. I'm going to paste in the style here. So this is the style for this particular div as well. So let me explain it. So I'm saying that the width for this div should be full, and then when it hits the XL breakpoint, the max width should be 1250 pixels, and we are saying MX should be auto, and then padding on the x-axis should be 6. Now this XL simply means, as you can see here, the media breakpoint, media queries of CSS. We are saying that the main width which is at 1280 pixels. We are saying that the maximum width of this particular div should be 1250 pixels, which means at this point the width shouldn't exceed this particular width defined size here, 1250 pixels basically. So we are saying that for this one, this width full here simply means that's how we want it to fill up the whole screen on mobile devices. That's what it means. Width full simply means it should fill up the whole screen from mobile devices going up. But then when it hits this breakpoint, the maximum width should be 1250. So when it hits there, it doesn't matter the size of the screen. This particular div shouldn't expand, basically. It shouldn't grow. It shouldn't continue growing, regardless of the width of your screen. So we are basically saying our mobile screen, it should be a full width, but then as the screen continues to increase and it hits this particular breakpoint, which is 1280 pixels of screen width, it should maintain this width for this particular div. So this particular div should have a width of 1250 pixels. Yeah, so that's that. And now let's start the unordered list as well. But first, let's define the list items. So the list items here, and then we're going to have our first item, which is home, all in caps, and let's style it. First of all, let me paste in the style for the unordered list. I'm going to say class name, and let me paste in the style. So pasted it in there, and now let me paste in the style for the list item as well. Okay, so now let me explain what we have here. So what we want to achieve now is, first of all, this is the unordered list, right? This is what we have for the unordered list, and we are seeing hidden here. But why is it hidden? Because if you watch what we have here, it's not hidden, right? It's not hidden. But then in here, we are saying that it should be hidden. Now, hidden because, like I said, on mobile screens, we don't want it to appear this way. Okay, so let me show this on mobile screen. So let me open the terminal and then, the console, and on a mobile device. So this is how it looks on desktop, right? This is how the navigation looks on desktop. But then on mobile screen, we have this hamburger icon here. Yes. So that means that the navigation is no longer there, meaning it's hidden, right? We've hidden it. So that's our goal here. On mobile device, it should be hidden because Tailwind CSS, like I said earlier, is a mobile first styling utility framework. So we are first designing for mobile, and then we move up to larger screens and desktop screens. So we are saying that it should be hidden at first, but then we are going to display it along the line. So back to our code here. We are saying that it's hidden, and then it should be it should take a width of full as well. Now you notice here that we are saying on LG breakpoint, LG means a media query, which is the minimum width of 1024 pixels. It should be flex, meaning it should display. Now instead of it being hidden, it should now display. So you notice that when we from this point, right, from this point, as the navigation tabs is gone and we have this hamburger here, as the screen increases, right, then the navigation tabs now appear, because at that point it's now, instead of being hidden, it's now flex, right? It's now display flex, meaning it's no longer hidden, but then it appears for us to see it. basically. So that's the whole point we have. So hidden with full, and then LG flex, meaning at the LG breakpoint it should display, and you want the items to be centered. Justify start, meaning it should start from the left, and then space X, meaning all the items within the unordered list should have a space X of 4, right? A space X of 4 between them. So let's duplicate this as well. So I'm going to say this. Okay, so instead of home, we are going to have about us, and then contact us, like so. Okay, let's go back to our app here. And with the list items, let's see the styling for the list items. So for the list items, we are saying that the cursor should be pointer. So when you hover your cursor on it, you notice it is pointed, and then the font should be medium, meaning you want the font to have a weight of 500. And when you hover on it, you want the text color to be text gray 300. So this is some color shades that we get from Tailwind CSS. You can use 500 or 700, whichever shade you'd want. So when you hover on it, you realize it has changed to 500. We are not using 500, we are using 300. So let's move it to 300, and then we get a shade that we want. Now you notice that when we resize the page, we get this hamburger icon. So that's an icon we need to add. But first, let's install a package called React Icons, because that's the icon package we'll be using. So I'm going to say npm I React Icons. I'm just going to go ahead and install React Icons for us. So while that's being installed, let's now add the, let's head over to React Icons and see how it works. So React Icons, and then hit the first link. So this is their documentation. You import it, you install it, npm install React Icons, and then to use it, you are going to import it like so. So let me copy this code here and paste it in here like so. And whatever icon you want to use, you come and search it here. So I'm going to say menu, because that's what we need. Menu here. And then we are going to choose this one. And when you choose that one, you are going to import it. Instead of what we have, you are going to paste it in here. And you notice that it has AI, then the name of the icon, outline menu. Now AI is like the model in which it's coming from. So AI should be at this section. So you have AI here instead of FA. So now that's done. We've imported the icon. Now let's use it here. To use the icon, you simply use it as a component. So you paste this in here like so, and let's give it a size of let's say 28, and let's style it. So class name, and the only thing we are going to see here is at the LG breakpoint it should be hidden, right? So at the LG breakpoint it should be hidden. So as you can see, if you could notice, when we resize it, or on the mobile screen, the hamburger menu is there, right? The hamburger icon or the menu icon is there. But then as the screen increases, it changes back to this size. So what's happening is when it hits the LG breakpoints, the hamburger menu or the menu icon hides itself, right? It becomes hidden. And when it becomes hidden, then this item also displays, basically. So that's the whole idea of this breakpoints and mobile first concepts of designing with Tailwind CSS. Okay, so that's done for our header. Now let's see if it's working as we want it to be. So let's see how it looks on mobile screens. Yes, as you can see, exactly how we want it. And let's get back to the default screen and then open our. Now the next thing we want to do is build this section, right? This text and button, and then have this image as well. So that's what we are going to do next. And to do that, let's open our app.js, and then we need to create a new component. Now this component that we're going to create is going to be within another div within the within our app.js file. So we're going to create the component, and we're going to call it mid section. Let's call it mid section. Now we've not created this component yet, so we're going to get an error. And so let's create it. So within the components folder, I'm going to create a new file, call it midsection.js, and let's do our refc to import what we need. And then let's go back to app.js and then import the component. Yeah, so it's imported, the error should be gone. Okay, so now I'm going to style this table. So I'm going to say class name, and then we want the width to be full, meaning it should be full. It should be 100%. And then on the XL breakpoints, like we did for the nav bar, we're going to do a similar thing here. The maximum width should be 1250 pixels. And then we're going to say margin on the x-axis should be auto. Now this keeps it in the center, keeps everything in the center. And I'm going to say padding on the x-axis should be 6. So this is what we need to do now. And as you can see, it has aligned perfectly with the navigation as well, because that's what we have here. Everything here is aligned perfectly with the navigation. Okay. All right, so now let's start building our midsection. So for the midsection, we have two different sections in the midsection, right? We have this section where we have this text and then a button here, and we have this side which has an image as well. So we're going to build them in as two different sections, right? So that's what we're going to be doing now. So let's first of all add a new div in here like so. So let's start the main div. Let's start the main div. I'm going to paste in the style and then explain after. Okay, so this is what we have here. So we are saying flex column reverse. Now we are going to see why we are using this flex column reverse. And then item should be center, and on the LG breakpoint, we are saying flex row. The width should be full, and then we are doing justify between, and then the text should be white. The text in that content should be white. Now we're going to see why this styles is needed in just a moment. And then for this div is going to contain this header text and then some subtext and then the button. So let's quickly add that. I'm going to say h3 with the text outer space, and then let's add the p tag to contain the subheading, and say let's learn about space. All right, okay, so this p here is a capital P. It shouldn't be a capital P. It should be just a small p because it's just a p tag. My caps is on. Okay, so after that, now we need to add a button. So let's add a button. And then this button is going to say get started. Get started. Yes, so as you can see, let me remove this here so that we see everything clearly. So this is what we have. We have this h3 outer space, and then let's learn about space, get started button. They are there. So now we need to style it. Let's first style the h3. Now I'm going to say for the h3, it should be, the text should be 10 view width. Now I'm going to see why I'm using 10 view width in a second. And then at the SM breakpoint of the screen, the text should not just be 10 view width, but I'm going to define an actual size for the text. It should be 4 rem, right? It should be 4 rem, and then the font should be medium. So yes, that's all we need to do for the heading. Now let's do for the p tag. Now the p tag, we're going to say the text should also be 4 view width, and then on the SM breakpoints, the text, we're going to define an actual size for it. So the text is going to be 1.4 rems. And now we're going to say the font should be light, like so. Great. So that's that for the sub heading as well. And now let's do for the button. Let's design the button. So the button, we're going to say the class name px, meaning padding on the x-axis should be 8, and then padding on the y-axis should be 2, and then margin top should be 10, and then we add a background of white, and it should be rounded, right? It should be rounded 3XL. And then let's add the text. Let's add the text color. Now the text color, we are going to use the same color we used at first for the background, 210, and then 3, and then 535, 535. So that's the color we're going to be using. And then let's increase the size of the text. Let's use text. Okay, so this is our button. But I think there's no, let's just maintain the default size. Let's maintain the default size. Okay, so now that's that. Now let's style this div that it's being contained in. So I'm going to say class name, and it should be flex, and then flex column, and then items center. And let's say on the LG breakpoint, the items, instead of being this way, it should start from the end, right? But this is how we want it to look on mobile device. We actually want it to look like this on mobile device. But then from the LG breakpoints upwards, it should be items start. Great. So now if we check on how it looks on a mobile device, we realize it's not going to be centered, right? So that's basically the whole idea. That's the whole idea here. Okay, let's go back. Bring back our code editor. All right, now let's add the image. Let's add the image. Now the image is going to be inside a div. It's going to be inside a div, and we add the image tag. Now the image takes an SRC, where for the SRC, since we're using a local image, we're going to say require. We're going to require it. We're going to require it from, it first go out a step, and then within the images folder, look for the spaceman. The spaceman.png image. We have that here in the images. Okay, so I think that we don't have that in the images. Let me quickly add it within the, I think it's in downloads, and then spaceman. All right, that's the image we need. Let me quickly drag and drop it here. Great. Spaceman.png. Okay, why are we getting this error? All right, so the image is in. You now have the image, and let's increase the width a bit. So I'm going to add in a styling to increase the width. The class name, I'm going to say it should simply be take a width of 24 rems, like so. So it should increase, or rather decrease. All right, and within this div, I'm going to say class name, and let's give it a margin button of 6. Now this is mobile first. Keep in mind, this is mobile first. So on mobile view, we are giving it a margin bottom of 6, but then on a larger screen, we don't want any margin. So I'm going to say margin buttons should be 0. Right. So that's that. And yeah, that's pretty much all we need for this particular section. So explaining this, we have these two sections where we have the text, and then we have this div which contains the image. Now the flex here keeps them in line, right? The flex here keeps them in line. But then flex column, you notice by default when we use flex column, right? When we use flex column, the text is going to come on top, and then this image is going to come beneath it. But then we are using flex column reverse because that's not what we want. What we want is the image to be on top and then the text to be at the bottom. So the flex column will work all right, but then we want it to be reversed. So that's what the flex column reverse does. Now item center, we want it to be in the center. LG, from the LG breakpoint, instead of being flex columned, it should be flex row, right? So from the LG breakpoint upwards, it should be flexed by each side. So that's why on the desktop screen it's on each side. But then when we resize it, it now comes to the top. The image is at the top, and then the text and the button is at the bottom, right? So that's the whole idea. And then what? Justify between. So that's the spacing. It has been justified between. That's the spacing you have between this section and the image as well. And the text is white. So that's basically it for the mid section. Now the next thing we want to do is this section will contain the articles, right? We want to add the articles. So that's what we're going to be doing next. So let's open our app.js. Within our app.js, let's add a component. What do we call this component? Let's call it articles. Call it articles. And we don't have articles yet, so let's add a component. New file, articles .js, and let's say refc to add our snippet. Let's remove this, we don't really need it. And then inside app.js, let's import articles. Okay, so now that is done, let's start building the articles page. So for the article, first let's add a text here. Let me bring it back here, and let's add the p tag containing the articles, and then we're going to have a div. Alright, so we're going to have a div in here which will contain a component we are going to create called card, right? Going to contain card, and this card is simply this cards we have in here. So that's what we have. Now let's create cards. Let's create a cards component. So within components, I'm going to create a new file called card.js, and I'm going to say refce, and then import the card like so. Now let's duplicate this because we need three of the cards. Now let me import it. We need to import it. I have to import the cards. All right. So let's start styling this. I'm going to say class name, and let's give it a full width. All right. For this, it should take the full width, and then let's style the text. Let's style the text. Say class name. I'm going to paste in the style here. Okay, so let's see what we've got here. So we've got the articles here, and now the div within which we have the card components too. So let's first of all see the styles for the article text. We are saying the text should be white. The size of the text should be 1.4 rems, and then the font should be medium, and the text should be centered. The text should always be at the center, and then it should have a margin top of 4. Right, so this is the styling we are giving here. So for the div containing the cards, we're going to paste in the styling here, like so. And for that one, we are saying it should have a full width. It should be flexed, and then flex column. Now this is for mobile screens. Flex column, and then on the LG breakpoint, it should be flex row. On larger screens, I mean, so from LG and above, it should be flex row, and then item center, and then justify center, and the margin top of 8. So that's that. Now let's start building the card. Start building the card. So for the card, like I said, for the card, this is what we have for the card. This is the cards that we are coming to build now. So let's start building it. So for the card, we first of all have a div containing the image, right? The div contains the image. And then we have another div beneath it, which contains the text, a p tag. So I'm going to paste in the text here. Okay, and also let's start styling from the main one. Let's start styling it. And that one too, I'm going to paste in the styling. Okay, so for that, as you can see, now we have group here. I'm going to explain what group is in a bit. So we have group, and then width. This is the width of the main card component. It's 16 rem, and then the height is 18 rem. And then on the LG breakpoints, right, meaning from the LG and above, we are giving each card a margin on the right side of 8, and also it should be rounded, right? It should be rounded and overflow hidden, meaning everything that's within it that's overflowing, it should be hidden. And also it should take a cursor pointer and then a margin bottom of 6, and then when for larger screens it should have a margin bottom of 0. Now let me give it a background color for you to see what we actually have. So let me say bg equals green. Yeah, so this is basically the cards, right? You have these boxes here with this text in it. So this is just the skeleton of the card. Okay, so let me clear this color because that's not what we want to do. Okay, so the next thing here now is to add the image, right? So let me add the image. Now the image, we are going to say img, not this, so we're going to say this, and then we add a source, right? So the source, we're going to require it. We're going to require, so we go out a step and then into the images folder, and then we say card 1 because that's the image we want to use. So we require card 1. Let's refresh this. Okay, so the image is within it. Now the whole concept of React components is if you create a component, you can use it multiple times across your app. So inside the articles component here, we are using the card. We are calling the card component 3 times, meaning it's going to appear 3 times, and whatever changes we make in the card component is going to reflect in all the 3 instances here. So that's why we have these 3 cards in here. But we are going to see how we can dynamically change each card. Okay, so let's go back to designing. We have this. Now for the text, let's start the text. We're going to say the text should be small. The text, okay, so it should rather be class name, and then the text should be SM. And for the div here, we are going to say the height should be 40%, right? The height should be 40%, and then the background should be white, and then there should be a padding of 4, like so. And now let's start the image as well. For the image, we are going to say the height should be 60%, and then group, right? I'm going to explain this group hover. So when you hover on it should scale. It should scale at 110, and then it should take a duration of 500 milliseconds. Okay, so now let's see what we have in here. Great, exactly what we want. So now let me explain the whole concept of the group. So as you can see within the div containing the image, right, we are saying that when we hover on it, we want it to scale at 110, right? So by default, if I remove this group, right? If I remove this group, it is the scaling will only work if I hover on the image. But then if I hover on the text, it won't scale, right? It will only scale if I hover on the image. But if I bring the group here, and I've already initially defined the group within the parent div, that the group is starting from this div, meaning this group is taking the whole div, everything within this div here, which means that anywhere at all I hover within this div, this style should take effect, right? This style should take effect. So now, even if I hover on this section of the component, it still scales because I've grouped it with the main div. Okay, so now it simply scales whether I hover on the image alone or on the whole component. So that's what we want it to do. So that's the whole concept of the group in Tailwind CSS. Okay, so now here we can see that we have one image across all the components, but that's not what we want. We want the images to change. Okay, so to do that, we're going to use something called props in React. We're going to use props in here. We're going to add some props. Let me increase this. We're going to add some props. To add the props, we're going to put it within this bracket and do some curly braces, and we're going to name it image. Okay, so instead of having this require here inside the src, I'm going to remove it, and I'm going to say image. So this image, we need to define it inside the article. Okay, so meaning each component here is expecting a prop. Each of the components here are expecting a prop called image, and this image, we are going to define it, paste it in here. Now instead of card 1, I'm going to say card 1, and then in here is going to be card 2, and then in here is going to be card 3. So we should see the images change now. Yeah, as you can see. So as you can see, this is how we use React components to dynamically create reusable components, basically. So we define a prop, and then we've added different types of images to each one. And we can also do the same for the text. We could remove this text here because this text cuts across on all the components. We can also change the text for each component, but we won't be doing that today. You can simply remove this text and add a prop in here, and then replace the text in here. And when you come to the article, you define the prop and assign its values, basically. So that's when we go back to the article, we've done pretty much all we need to do for it to be mobile responsive as well. So let's go back to our app and see how responsive it is. Yeah, so on mobile screen, this is how it looks like. We have this hamburger menu icon in here. We have this spaceman tool here. We have the heading. We have the get started button, and then we have these cards here also, which are well aligned on the app on the center. When we clear this too, you can see everything is looking nice. Basically, this is just a simple landing page built with React.js and then Tailwind CSS. So if you've made it this far, I'll say congratulations. You've really done well, and you are rocking, and you are on your way to becoming a good and a strong React.js developer. And if you find this video to be very helpful and you've learned a lot, do well to like this video and then subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, to grow the channel and grow the community. And you can also leave your thoughts in the comment section. If you have any problem, you can also do that in the comment section, and I will surely reply you ASAP. Thanks again for watching this video, and catch you in the next video.